The Reddit discussion forum is more active than ever. It is stunning what is going on at davidpakman.com/Reddit, where our viewers and listeners can communicate with each other and also with us. Pat checks the Reddit regularly. I am on the Reddit regularly. I wanted to go through some of the popular discussions on the Reddit discussion forum as of this morning, starting with a discussion about why we shouldn't have to make this argument, but that it is still important to explain that the Nazis were not actually socialists. There's this very common talking point from some who are on the right who say, hey, socialists, Nazi stood for National Socialist.
Right.
There's no difference between a Nazi and someone like Bernie Sanders. And of course, it's sad that we have to explain it, but the Nazis were not socialists in any reasonable sense of the word. Very interesting discussion on our Reddit discussion forum. Also there, have you ever changed someone's mind about something political? This is an interesting discussion for a thread about, there's all this argument and debate and conversation about politics, people with different political views. Are people's minds ever actually changed? Like, have you ever changed someone else's mind because of an argument that you made? Has your mind ever been changed by an argument that somebody else made for you? And I actually think that the answer is yes. I don't think that the strategy for Democrats in 2018 and 2020 should be to talk Trump voters into voting for Democrats. Just work on voter turnout. But that's a separate question from whether people's minds are changed based on political debate. And I think that they are.
It depends, I think, on how passionately someone speaks about the issue
Sure.
as well, because if they go into an exchange super passionate, even if they lose the argument, they're not going to admit that on the spot. They may say
Obviously.
that they had an evolution on their opinion
Well,
and come
sometimes
back
you'll
in a
see-
week and say they changed their mind.
Sometimes you'll see people become more planted in their beliefs when they have passionate arguments against them.
Sure.
That's another thing that happens.
I mean, I think the best case scenario is someone understanding that they may not understand all sides of the issue. And if you just come out with more knowledge than they're able to take in, I think that's the best way for them to become convinced.
There, I don't know that I agree. I actually think the best way to get somebody who might lack knowledge, in other words, many people hold political beliefs because of lack of knowledge about the facts, so to speak. And sometimes we think, hey, if we just hammer them over the head with facts, they'll change their mind. That's when I think it's better to apply a basic Socratic method of questioning. How did you come up with that? Interesting. And go down that path to hopefully
feasibility.
make them question where they came up with this idea. But anyway, really good discussion on Reddit. Also from our Reddit discussion forum, the most common right-wing troll comments. This is a really funny thread where you hear people were listing what their popular or the right-wing troll internet comments that they see most often are. And there's some really good ones about Colin Kaepernick is a thug is a good one. The Civil War wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights. It's really like an encyclopedia entry on the most common right-wing talking points that you see in internet discussions.
I feel like this could be an online generator where you just add in the topic that you want a right-wing troll to talk about.
And it'll put it in the format, yeah.
And the poor grammar and everything else will come along with it.
And lastly, from our Reddit discussion forum, shame on you, David. How can you, number one, not have watched an episode of Game of Thrones? And number two, admit on screen that you haven't watched an episode of Game of Thrones. It's the walk of shame for you. Shame, shame, shame. Yeah, I've seen 15 minutes of one episode of Game of Thrones 5 years ago on an airplane, and then I fell asleep.
Yeah, I have to admit something too. I actually don't watch Game of Thrones either. I've seen the majority of the first episode. I understand maybe people got the impression that I watched it. All I knew was that there's a lot of turnover in characters, and that was the point that I made. But I'm not really a fan myself either, at least yet.
I told some of my family members in Argentina, I'm not watching it, and they said, it's an international phenomenon, right? And I said, yeah, I'm aware of it. I mean, I'm aware of the program. I don't have HBO. That's a starting point where I'm operating from.
I'm sure I would get into it, even though fantasy is not really my genre, because just about everyone else is. And it's really a cultural experience, too.
Sure.
I think that's part of the reason why you have to join in.
No, it would be deep anthropology as a result of watching it, for sure. All right. Over 4,000 of our viewers and listeners now at davidpakman.com/Reddit participating in very polite political conversation. I encourage you to join us.